So after looking at some of the incidents that the Bias Incident Prevention and Response team at Colby College deal with, let's actually look into what this team is and what it's supposed to do. This is from their website, and all links can be found in the blog post, which I urge you to follow up on. Quote, Bias Incident Prevention and Response Team Protocol. No college or community is immune to problems that arise as a result of various forms of bias. As part of the college's commitment to manage an inclusive campus, a Bias Incident Prevention and Response (BIPR) team and protocol have been developed. The BIPR team is charged with responding to bias incidents involving members of the Colby community and working with other appropriate individuals, officers, and organizations to foster a climate of openness and inclusion on campus. The team will also perform an educational role in fostering a climate of civility and mutual respect. We urge all community members to familiarize themselves with the reporting protocol found in this document and to report promptly any incidents that violate the standards that we as a community seek to uphold. The college has a legal responsibility to collect data and report hate crimes and bias behavior. Unquote. Buzzwords are wonderful things. They can mean absolutely nothing, but represent everything. What I mean by this is that it is very easy for someone to spew them out day after day, and also for them to justify anything because of them. This statement is full of buzzwords, as is everything I can find on the BIPR. Inclusion and openness, buzzwords which do not mean anything. Bias behavior, buzzwords. Bias in itself is a buzzword in this case because it is never defined what they think bias is. Also, when defining what your organization does, do not define it by including its name. It was something taught to me from a very young age that you cannot define something by using itself. An example of this would be me saying diluting a liquid means that you take a liquid and dilute it. To someone who actually wants to know what diluting a liquid is or how it works, it is completely useless. Here we have this problem. Quote, The BIPR team is charged with responding to bias incidents involving members of the Colby community and working with other appropriate individuals, officers, and organizations to foster a climate of openness and inclusion on campus. Unquote. They here have decided to describe a bias incident prevention and response team to be a team which responds to bias incidents. What a pointless sentence. What is missing here, and will always be missing, is what does bias mean to them? This is where the issue starts arising. Just with hate speech in the last video, the idea of bias can be completely manipulated here to mean anything. Bias to me is the same as the definition: prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. This is what it means to me, but because they have not defined it, they can construe it as anything. Using the examples given in the last episode, the two issues they had to deal with were a fascist pumpkin and a sentence which discriminated against a thought of a person who had only one hand. These can fit the bias definition I put forward. If you take a wide-eyed lens to the issues, you could say the swastika pumpkin is discriminating against Jewish people because of the atrocities they had to face, and the other discriminates against the minority of people who are not able-bodied. It can make sense in your head, but the question is it needed? As I talked about in my last video, no it's not. Let's have a look at another part of their statements. Quote, Colbys Values statement on diversity. Colby College is dedicated to the education of humane, thoughtful, and engaged persons prepared to respond to the challenges of an increasingly diverse and global society and to the issues of justice that arise therein. The college also is committed to fostering a fully inclusive campus community, enriched by persons of different races, gender identities, ethnicities, nationalities, economic backgrounds, ages, abilities, sexual orientations, political beliefs, and spiritual values. We strive to confront and overcome actions and attitudes that discourage the widest possible range of participation in our community, and we seek to deepen our understanding of diversity in our daily relationships and in our dealings as an institution." Unquote. I want to just point out that this was put above their protocol on the page for some reason. I'm guessing because it's more important to them instead of explaining to people what the BIPR is actually there for, but who knows? Seems a bit ridiculous. All these buzzwords sound lovely at the end of the day. Engaged, humane, inclusive. They really drive the message home, but the issue always is with these statements is if you go against the grain. Remember how they dealt with the fascist pumpkin? What if you are a straight up Nazi and go to the college? Technically, according to this statement, you have to respect them for it to be fully inclusive and enriched by different political beliefs. See? These words are great unless they are turned around on people. It is fine being fully inclusive and enriched. It is great being thoughtful of people and being engaged by their ideas. But what if they are a KKK member? Oh, we don't do that anymore, because it is the wrong type of diversity. The hateful kind. Therefore, the whole idea falls apart because you are not fully inclusive. I would posture it is impossible to be fully inclusive. It is the same idea as why multiculturalism has never really worked well in the West. If you say to everyone that they can come and mold the society that you live in, you will get people with different ideas and they will conflict. Let's use homosexuals and non-moderate Muslims as an example in this case. Let's say you have some lesbians move into the college grounds and they are partying, having fun, and you also have a group of non-moderate Muslims on the campus who decide to start throwing them off roofs. Obviously, we have a conflict here, but because of the diversity idea the Truth Council has put forward, how are you supposed to deal with this problem? You simply can't. If you were being sensible, you would try and segregate the two groups away from each other, so they do not interact because they have contradicting ideas, or to a much more extreme extent, say to one of them, you cannot attend this college. But once again, according to this statement, everyone must get along and respect everyone's life choices, and all of that wonderful stuff. It's a very nice notion, but it does not represent reality. There are bigots in this world. There are people who grow up learning types of people are immoral because of their sexuality. There are segments of the population growing up to hate the police. There are segments who believe blacks cannot be racist and women cannot be sexist, so will spew some of the most hateful stuff imaginable. How do you create a fully inclusive environment for all these different groups? You cannot. You will end up putting them all together, giving them training, saying how great the world is and how respectful everyone should be, while they are all trying to knife each other because they are not like themselves. Once again, this statement can be seen as very pointless or the beginning of the end. It's all a matter of perspective. The buzzwords mean nothing when you actually start thinking about it, and that is precisely the problem. Because they mean nothing, they can be used for anything. If someone on campus is seen to not be fully inclusive, they are gone. If someone is seen as not agreeing with your spiritual values, they are gone. When words mean nothing, they can be used for anything. Now let's look at their idea of what a bias incident is. Quote, "A bias incident is an action that violates college policy and is motivated in whole or in part by the perpetrator's bias or attitude against an individual or group based on perceived or actual personal characteristics such as race, color, religion, sex, ancestry, national origin, physical or mental disability, age, sexual orientation, or gender identity." Examples of bias incidents include harassment, intimidating or threatening comments or messages, vandalism of personal or college property, and defacing posters or signs. Bias incidents affect not only the individual victim or target of a specific action, but often make an entire group or community feel vulnerable and unwelcome. This is unacceptable at Colby and will be treated as a serious offense that could include separation from the college. Unquote. You see a big issue here with using this idea of being fully inclusive again. If you are truly fully inclusive, you accept all the bad ideas too, or what you would label as bad. You would have people who do judge based on sexuality, gender, religion, etc. because that would be the inclusive thing to do, but it is impossible to do it. This whole thing is a trap. To be fully inclusive, you have to have contradicting ideas, unless you believe you hold the true ideas and everyone else's are wrong. Hence why I've been calling this a truth council. It is the only way to make this work even slightly effectively, and because of that, it will do the opposite. It is the same way people look at Christianity. If you ever have seen a debate on the subject, there are many great ones where the key issue is the fact one side has belief of a God and the other doesn't. If you look at the side who believes in a God, no matter how they justify it, it comes down to that they have an unfalsifiable belief, and that is that. They believe he is real, and there is nothing you can do about it. No convincing otherwise, because it is a personal subjective thing. They believe they are right because in their mind they have this idea that they have to be right. You cannot question if God exists, because he is and that is that. This is the same logic as saying my way is the right way, and the only way for the BIPR to function would be to take this stance. No matter how many buzzwords you throw at this, it will boil down to whoever has the bad ideas gets cast away and whoever is deemed to have the good ideas will be allowed to stay, creating an echo chamber. If something is vague, the way to make it look at least better is with examples, so the reader can at least understand what they are getting at. The examples they give here are once again very vague, which points towards the fact they can be abused. Some of them we can all agree with, such as vandalism of personal or college property. I don't know what it has to do with bias, but it is still an amicable goal, but surely vandalism is a security goal, not something for a middleman response team. The issues arise when we look at their other examples such as harassment and intimidating or threatening comments or messages. The problem I have always had with harassment and the like is the fact that everyone draws the line differently on what harassment is. Someone may draw the line at constantly trying to talk to them every day for a week. Another person may draw the line at the fact that someone came up to them to say hello when they did not want them to. You cannot create rules and laws around these things, unless they are well defined, because otherwise you leave it up to the subjective opinion of a judge, jury, and executioner, which is never a good idea. This is once again a clear sign that this team is not there to create a fully inclusive atmosphere, but instead to weed out the bad ideas they deem as so. This will cause strife where there is none, such as on the other hand comment did in the last episode. This is also not just an isolated incident. There are over 100 campuses with these teams and many others which have similar teams under different names with the same goals. The way I would describe these teams is at best a malignant tumor which will stay dormant, but at worst stage 3 cancer which will consume its populace. Next video we shall look into one of their reports to see what the BIPR actually does, and even if it's useful, or as I said, a malignant tumor.